In the heart of the rugged Wyoming plains, where the winds spoke secrets of the land and the sun sank behind golden hills, there stood a ranch unlike any other, a place where men worked from dawn to dusk, and where silence spoke louder than words. It was there that a woman named Mei Lin arrived one cold evening, with a small satchel and a heart full of uncertainty. She had been told that a rancher nearby was looking for help, not for himself, but for a newborn child who had lost his mother only a week after birth. When Mei Lin approached the ranch, her boots were dusty, her eyes weary from walking miles, and her spirit trembling between hope and fear. As she neared the wooden fence, a tall man stepped out of the barn, broad-shouldered, sunburned, and quiet. His name was Luke Harrison, a man known for his strength, his loss, and his solitude. Mei Lin bowed slightly, her voice soft and hesitant. "Sir, I was told you needed someone to nurse the baby." Luke's eyes studied her carefully. Her accent, her delicate frame, and her almond-shaped eyes spoke of a land far from here, China. The West was not kind to those who looked different, and she knew it too well. She had heard the whispers in town, "No one wants a Chinese girl." But she had no family, no home, and nothing left to lose. He folded his arms. "You came all this way to care for my son. I can cook, clean, and take care of a baby," she said softly. "I nursed my sister's child before I came here. Please, sir, I just need a chance." For a long moment, Luke said nothing. His wife, Clara, had died giving birth only 10 days ago. Since then, the ranch had gone silent. The baby cried through the night, and Luke, who had once faced wolves and storms, found himself powerless before that tiny, fragile life. Finally, he said, "No one else came." Mei Lin lowered her head. "I understand." But then, he added in a rough voice, "Then stay here." Those 3 words would change both their lives forever. The days that followed were quiet but filled with unspoken emotion. Mei Lin settled into the small guest room by the kitchen, tending to the infant she named Little Luke, in her mind, though she never said it aloud. She would hum soft Chinese lullabies at night, her voice wrapping the baby in calm warmth. The ranch hands, curious at first, soon grew used to seeing her moving through the house like a shadow, silent, efficient, and gentle. But not everyone was kind. One evening, while Mei Lin fetched water from the well, 2 ranch workers whispered near the barn. "Why'd he let her stay?" One sneered. "A China woman on the ranch, it ain't right." "She's harmless," said the other, shrugging. "Just taking care of the kid." Still, the first spat on the ground. "No place for her kind here." Mei Lin heard them. She said nothing, only clutched the bucket tighter. It wasn't the first time she'd heard words like that. In town, people had called her Yellow Flower, or China Doll. But she had survived worse. She came to America as a servant for a railroad family, only to be left behind when they moved east. Since then, she'd wandered, working for food, never for kindness. That night, she stayed up late sewing a torn blanket, whispering to herself, "Work hard, stay quiet. One day, peace will find you." Luke often watched her from a distance. He saw how she handled the baby with tenderness, how she worked tirelessly without complaint. The house, once filled with grief, began to breathe again. The baby stopped crying through the nights, and for the first time since Clara's death, Luke found himself sleeping soundly. One morning, he approached her while she was hanging laundry on the line. "You've been doing good work," he said. She looked startled. Compliments were rare in her life. "Thank you, sir." He paused, noticing the way her fingers trembled slightly in the cold. "You can call me Luke." She shook her head quickly. "No, sir, I mean Luke." "I shouldn't." He smiled faintly, something soft in his eyes. "Suit yourself." It was a small moment, but something shifted. Weeks turned into months. The snow melted, the grass grew tall, and spring came to the ranch like a blessing. Mei Lin had become a quiet rhythm in the household, cooking hearty stews, mending fences when needed, and tending to little Luke as if he were her own. But the outside world didn't forget her difference. One afternoon, when Luke went to town for supplies, a group of men from the nearby settlement came by the ranch. They were drunk, loud, and full of trouble. "Hey, Luke," one shouted when they saw Mei Lin at the door. "Didn't know you were hiring foreigners now." She stood her ground, holding the baby close. "Please leave." The man laughed. "Or what? You'll poke us with chopsticks." Before she could answer, a voice roared from behind them. "Enough." Luke's horse thundered into the yard, and he jumped down, his fists clenched. "You talk to her like that again, and you'll be eating dirt." The men muttered curses but backed away. One spat, "Didn't know you cared for her kind, Harrison." Luke's jaw tightened. "She's under my roof. That's all that matters." When they finally rode off, the ranch fell silent again. Mei Lin looked up at him, eyes glistening. "Why did you?" He cut her off gently. "No one disrespects someone who works in my home." But deep down, he knew it wasn't just about that. Somewhere between the long days and the quiet nights, he had grown to care for her more than he'd ever expected. One summer night, as the sky burned orange and gold, Mei Lin stood on the porch, watching the sunset. Luke joined her, the baby asleep in his arms. "You ever miss your home?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "Every day, but I have no home now." "Not really." He was silent for a moment, then said, "Maybe this can be one." Her eyes widened. "You don't mean..." "I mean stay. Not just as the nurse. Not just as the help." His voice was low but steady. "Stay because you belong here." Mei Lin turned away, tears catching the fading light. "People will talk." "They already do," he said with a faint smile. "Let them." For the first time in years, she let herself believe she could belong somewhere. Time moved forward gently, like a river carving its way through rock. The child grew stronger, and the bond between Mei Lin and Luke deepened. They didn't speak of love, there was no need. It was in the small things, in how he left her a mug of warm tea each morning, how she mended his torn shirts without being asked, how they laughed softly over the baby's first steps. One stormy night, lightning split the sky, and thunder rolled across the valley. The baby cried, terrified by the noise. Mei Lin rushed to comfort him, holding him close until his sobs faded. Luke stood in the doorway, watching her silhouette illuminated by the flicker of the oil lamp. He stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're his mother now, you know." She froze. "No, I can't be." "Yes, you can," he said firmly. "You already are." Tears filled her eyes, and for once, she didn't hold them back. The following morning, the air was calm after the storm. The sun rose over the hills, washing everything in gold. Luke saddled his horse, preparing to ride into town, and Mei Lin handed him his hat. Their hands brushed, just a simple touch, but it carried more than words ever could. When he returned later that evening, he brought something wrapped in cloth. He set it on the table before her and nodded for her to open it. Inside was a small silver locket, with a picture of little Luke on one side and a space left empty on the other. "I thought," he said awkwardly, "you might want to put your picture there. So he knows who his mother is." She covered her mouth, overwhelmed. "Luke, I don't care what people say," he said firmly. "You've given us back our home, our peace. I don't want you to ever feel unwanted again." She reached out, her hand trembling, and placed it over his. "Then I'll stay, as long as you'll have me." He smiled softly. "Forever, then." Years later, travelers passing through the valley would sometimes stop at the Harrison Ranch. They'd see a woman with kind eyes and dark hair, teaching a boy to feed the horses, and a tall rancher watching them with quiet pride. When asked who she was, the locals would say, "That's Mei Lin Harrison. Came here with nothing but courage and a heart of gold." The ranch wouldn't be what it is without her. And though many still whispered, she no longer cared. She had found her place, her family, and her peace. Because one man grieving, broken, but kind had looked at her when no one else would and said the words that changed everything. "Then stay here." And she did, for the rest of her days.